Welcome back, listeners. My name is Larry Kolvik, founder and CEO of the Haven Financial Group, and you're listening to the Haven Financial Group radio show, where weekly we discuss crucial retirement and financial topics that really can make the difference between a great retirement or a not so good retirement. So again, feel free to give us a call, 612-504-8400 or info@havenfinancialgroup.com. Of course, Kim, in recent weeks we've talked about, we're in the process of celebrating our 10-year anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
We're just entering our new space that we have, an education center and some more offices. So as we continue to help more people, we needed more space. And, that education center, we're having the police department in to do a fraud prevention here in September. And we're going to continue to have these classes, educational classes that clients and or potential clients or just the public can benefit from, because these are important topics and we really want people to get the information so they can make educated retirement decisions.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's terrific. And congratulations to you and all the success over these 10
Thank
years.
you.
And I know that
Thank you.
we've got 10 plus more coming your way for sure.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
We're talking about inflation and the impact that it has on your retirement. And I think one of the things that we established right off the bat was you must have a plan that includes some safeguards should inflation fluctuate. And it does. And it does. And that's been proven, certainly. We want to talk a little bit about savings and some of the targets that maybe you need in that plan in order to be safeguarded against these inflationary times. And I guess, again, Larry, we go back to first and foremost, you've just got to sort of know what it is that you want to do in your retirement, and you need to make sure that you have a plan in place so that when times fluctuate, you're ready to go.
Yeah, it's a moving target, and you're not going to have all the answers because you've never retired probably before, or you're going to retire one time. So, but unfortunately, imagine retirement and only falling short on your savings. Now you have tough sacrifices, financial stress. So again, the good news is a well-crafted plan can help avoid some of these costly mistakes that we want to avoid, safeguard your retirement future. And I bet you want a lifestyle in there too. So, as we go down some of these, budgeting, estimate retirement expenses. And at Haven, we help people walk through this.
Mm-hmm.
What are your lifestyle goals? What do you want to do? Make sure we're taking healthcare in there, travel expenses, housing, inflation. A common starting point is to plan for 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income annually. That's just a starting point. It'd be different for everybody.
Sure.
But that's a good place to start. And then retirement age. When do you want to retire? Now, want and when will you retire are two different things that could be a moving target. What risk level? What is your savings level at? What should it be? Based on life expectancy, again, am I going to run out of money? Setting that retirement horizon too. How many years until you retire? What is the goal? And then what if you don't get there? Because the reality is people tend to retire or force into retirement sooner than they think.
Sure.
And that happens often. Does your plan adjust for that?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you not have a plan?
Right.
That is a problem.
Right. And if I could just interject here, and I think most people
Yeah.
understand this, but one of the reasons that maybe you're not saying you need to retire by such and such age, this should be your risk tolerance, is because this just is so different for everyone. And I think we've talked about this a lot of times, but your next door neighbor or your brother might have a retirement plan, but that's not your plan.
It's a moving target. I mean, it's not one glove fits all. I can tell you, I sat down with a wonderful couple from Burnsville this week. They were worried about retirement. They're on the cusp of retirement. But actually, in our conversation, this is our third time we've got together, they felt really good because what they've done is they don't spend, and we all have different spending habits. So the need for monthly income was really not there because they both had very good Social Securities. They worked a lot of years, paid into the system. One of them had a pension. They have no mortgage, and their expenses are really low. My next couple I could sit down with maybe has a lot saved. Expenses are through the roof, and they're not sitting well positioned for retirement at all. So every conversation is different, similar, but different because
Sure.
we all have different habits. We all have different taste. And sometimes things are better off than people think they are. And sometimes it's a heart to heart to say things aren't as good as you think they are. And you need to know that now rather than find it out later.
Sure. When we go back to understanding savings, I think one of the things that's really important is we've talked about this, of course, accounting for inflation, but considering life expectancy, that's also something that influences decision making.
Oh, when we project it out, we're projecting out well into your mid 90s. So 20 to 30 years is very, very normal. Health tends to play a role. Oftentimes, unfortunately, health plays a major role. Family history, genes. Unfortunately, I've done this a long time, and I just got a call this week that one of my clients, he called me and his wife can't take care of him, and he's looking at going into a care facility. Unfortunately, he's like, can I do anything to hide my monies? Well, the answer is no. And those are tough conversations. So it comes down to, what are you doing now to prepare for the possible worst? He never planned on going into a home when he was 30, 40, or 50 years old.
Right.
But the reality is now that can decimate what him and his wife have worked hard for. So again, planning, what's the old saying? A failure to plan is a plan to fail.
There you go.
What are you doing to plan? Again, we like to plan for the worst and pray and hope for the absolute best. What are your income sources? These are conversations. Most people don't have pensions. Do you need to create your own income stream, maybe in the form of an annuity or some other things, which I think we're going to talk about the next segment?
Mm-hmm.
And when we factor in returns, let's be realistic. When we factor in, we use realistic returns. I always say, a lot of financial people, not all, they're good at puffing up numbers. Well, I call that a complete waste of time. Yeah, we all want the highest returns, and of course, we hope we get the highest returns. But you have to be realistic, and I see some projections that somebody else may have done, and they compare them to what we do, and they go, why is there such a big disparity? Mm-hmm. Well, because they use unrealistic returns that made it all look better, and at the end of the day, you're going to be sadly mistaken if you don't hit those returns. And oftentimes it's just not realistic.
Sure.
It's a waste of time.
Sure, absolutely. We've already talked about planning for healthcare costs, but I think this is interesting. Adjust for personal goals and risks. I mean, people have to understand life happens.
It does. It does. What are those activities you like to do? What are the costs associated? When we build out these plans, we actually put a buffer in there, kind of in anything else category for a lot of these things. You mentioned healthcare. I just want to throw this out there that the average healthcare cost for a couple, mid 60s, maybe retired, Medicare, you better at least budget at least $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
If that number sounds high, it's actually very realistic. $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year. We need to factor that into the planning process. And by the way, we're talking inflation. The average inflation rate for healthcare is much higher. The last year, it's been 3.5% and going up, which is higher than the 2.3 or 2.5 or the target of 2% that the feds are going for. So healthcare has a higher inflationary rate, and we want to factor that in as well.
Absolutely. And then again, let's go back to those goals and those risks. People think when they get to retirement, well, we won't spend as much money, but that's not true. I mean, you have expectations, you have ideas, you have things you want to do, whether it's going down the street to spend time with the grandkids or traveling halfway around the world.
That is a big misconception. When you retire, yeah, there might be certain things costs that go down, but other things that go up. You have more free time. You're not working. You're spending most of your time at work. You're out having free time, and that free time might be spending more money. So again, that just isn't the case. And by the way, for married couples, sometimes they think, well, when the first one passes, that expenses are cut in half. That is a misconception completely. They don't get cut in half in most cases whatsoever. No. They may go down a little bit jokingly because, the husband's $400 beer budget isn't there anymore potentially. But at the end of the day, they usually are not cut in half. So again,
the electric bill is still the same.
It is. Yeah. It is. Maybe the water bill isn't as high, but it doesn't get cut in half.
No.
Don't fall into that one.
Absolutely. Listen, if you're someone who has concerns about inflation and a retirement plan, maybe you're someone who doesn't have a retirement plan and you know it's time for you to get started. You have one and you need it to be reviewed. Give the folks at Haven Financial Group a call. No doubt we have been talking about some things here that are hitting home for you. The number is 612-504-8400. Tell them that you heard Larry and me here on the radio and that you'd like to just come in, sit down, talk a little bit about what your expectations might be for retirement, or you'd like someone to look over your health care plan or your life insurance plan or your estate plan. These are all things that can be addressed at Haven Financial Group. Again, that number 612-504-8400. You're listening to the Haven Financial Group radio show.